Welcome to Day 3 of the Lean Gulf Summit. We're happy you could join us today. Our first speaker for the evening is Mr. Nick Katko, who will be covering Lean Accounting Financial Management for the Lean Organization. Was president of BMA Incorporated in the USA and began his accounting career in the public sector. He went on to become an early pioneer of lean accounting. As CFO of Bullard, he implemented a complete lean management accounting system, including the elimination of standard accounting as part of the organization's lean transformation. Nick's improvement approach has been applied across many industries and is not just for accounting and financial teams. He has worked with both large and small organizations, lean practitioners, and business leaders alike have benefited from Nick's forward-thinking improvement approach. Nick also has written a book titled The Lean CFO, which is available on Amazon. But don't expect his book to be about debits, credits, or accounting theories. It's more hands-on than that. He also co-authored The Lean Business Management System, Lean Accounting Principles and Practice Toolkits, and is a frequent keynote speaker at lean conferences around the world. So with no further ado, I will let Nick start his talk.
Hi, hello everyone. Let me share my screen here and we'll get started. Can everybody see my screen?
Perfect.
All right, great. Well, welcome everyone. I'm very honored to be speaking here. I'd like to thank Deb and the Lean Gulf Institute and the Dubai Quality Group for both inviting me to speak. I like talking about lean accounting, whether it's live or virtual. So this is a lot of fun for me and I hope you get some learning points out of it. So let's just get started because I don't want to talk the whole time. I'd like to save some time for discussion questions. So first of all, I'm not here to talk to you or to teach you how to do accounting because I realize most of you probably are not accountants. Lean accounting is more about how the accounting function and the accounting staff and the information that accounting produces, how does it align to become a strategic partner in a lean organization? So what are we going to talk about today? First, I want to review in general what is a lean accounting strategy. We'll talk about the economics of lean. How does lean work financially? There's a lot of information and books about how does lean work operationally in terms of making improvement and quality and flow, but it's also very important to understand what happens financially because that forms the foundation of the information that is required in a lean organization. We'll talk about how do you practice lean inside the accounting function? How do you apply lean principles, practices, and tools? Then we're going to do a quick overview of a lean management accounting system. And then we'll wrap things up and have questions. So let's start with our strategy. How do you explain lean accounting in about 1 minute or 2 minutes? That's what we're going to start with because it's really good to be able to have what we in the United States call an elevator speech. Lean accounting is about applying lean thinking to accounting and finance processes and systems. No different really than lean thinking in any organization, but we're going to focus on accounting processes and systems. Oh, let me say one thing here that I meant to say a couple minutes ago. I'm going to be using the term lean accounting. I do realize that maybe in other parts of the world, finance is used instead of accounting. If you want to call it lean finance, if you want to call it the finance department, I'm talking about the same thing. Second, one of the other strategic aspects of lean accounting is to develop a deep understanding of value to accounting's customers. What's unique about accounting is we have a lot of customers. We have external customers who use the financial reports that we produce, but we also have a lot of internal customers. And from a sort of conventional view of accounting, we focus on our external customers. We want to get the financial statements out in accordance with our accounting regulations, but we don't necessarily think too much about our internal customers. Well, lean is about creating value. So we need to really focus on value to all our customers equally. We want to flow that value to our customers. What information do they need and when do they need it? And we also need to respond to customer demand or the pull, especially internally, because in a lean organization, the information requirements change in terms of the frequency at which it's needed. In accounting, we have a tendency to focus on the monthly cycle of reporting, but lean, there's more frequency, and we'll talk about that later. We want to achieve service excellence. That is really, it's really important to think of accounting like a service organization. And we're providing a lot of information, we're providing value-added analysis, we're collaborating, and so think of it like services, okay? We want to flow that value to our customers. Another important aspect of providing service excellence is we need to think about systems, the systems in our organization, the systems that our internal customers work in, not just our accounting system, not just the debits and the credits. We in accounting, and I speak of this as a former CFO, we're trained to think very statically. You know, we do certain things, we produce information, but you know, in an organization, systems are very dynamic and the contexts change. So we need to understand the systems. We need to really develop a learning attitude to understand how these systems work, to develop a deep understanding of value to our customers. And again, this is a lot different than the training that we get in accounting and finance, which is pretty much certainty. You know, we do debits and credits, we produce information, and we know the information is valid, and we think we have these linear relationships that in terms of cause and effect, we look at the numbers and we understand what the cause is. Well, the reality is that there's a lot of relationships in these systems and organizations. There's relationships between people, how the processes are structured and how they perform, and the overall performance. And so we need to really open up our minds and think deeply about systems and relationships and take a learning attitude, meaning that we don't have all the answers, but we will begin to apply lean thinking practices, better understand our customers and their needs, and learn also how is the lean organization performing with the right information. I like to think of dividing lean accounting into different practice areas. One is, how do we apply lean thinking principles, practices, tools inside accounting to improve the quality, delivery, cost, and productivity of the accounting function? Just like whether it's putting lean in operations, putting lean in marketing, it's the same process. There's also supporting continuous improvement in the organization, which I think is what's accounting's role in supporting overall continuous improvement, whether it be the processes that accounting is part of, whether it's providing the information, whether it's using the analytical skills that accounting possesses to help support continuous improvement activities. And finally, management accounting. And it's about delivering relevant and reliable information to the users to improve decision-making. Now, for those of you not familiar with accounting, there's really two pieces to accounting. One is financial accounting, and that's what everybody thinks of when they think accounting, because we produce the financial statements in accordance with our reporting regulations. There's a whole other piece of accounting which is called management accounting. And this is the information that is provided through a management accounting system. And it's a combination of financial and non-financial information that's used by the managers of the business to run the business. It has some pieces of financial reporting, but it's not just financial reporting. And so this is one of the areas where accounting can really make a difference in terms of improving management accounting, which I'll talk about a little bit later. So let's talk about lean thinking in accounting. We want to look at how can we support our customer-facing processes, the processes that create the value in your organization. How can accounting support that in terms of providing the right information at the right time? Or maybe accounting has some touch points where they actually deal with your end customers, like the billing process. And, is the billing process customer friendly? We also want to eliminate the waste and create capacity inside accounting. We want to look at cross-functional business processes in terms of participating in and contributing to events. And ultimately, what we want to do is transform our accounting staff into what I'd like to call financial coaches. Okay, integrate those skills, those analytical skills that accountants naturally have into the business processes, into continuous improvement, because there's a lot of value there that accounting can provide. So that's sort of the strategic aspects of lean accounting. I'm going to take a little diversion right now. I want to talk about what I call the economics of lean. How does lean work financially, and how can this be explained very, very simply? I think this is very important for lean organizations to understand and have a clear thinking of this throughout the organization. How does lean work financially? What can we expect? Because the economics of lean really forms the foundation for all the information requirements that are needed in a lean organization. So first, there's many, many ways to define and explain lean. I found this to be one of the best. I'm not going to take credit for it. I actually heard Daniel Jones talk about this at a lean summit, and it made a whole lot of sense to me. And it also, besides making sense to me, it also aligns with lean accounting a lot. So lean is really a people-centric learning strategy. The whole idea of improvement and plan, do, check, act, and problem solving is for people, individuals, teams, the whole organization to master work by learning. So you have to understand what the problems are and find the right problems to solve, You have to give people the capabilities to solve those problems. They also need the ability to analyze problems basically in real time, changing contexts. When all that is in place, the organization, gets to do things tomorrow that it can't do today, which is really, we're making improvement. So learning takes time. Think about you and any of the education which you have gone through, whether it was when you were younger or maybe you were in university. When you're learning a new subject, it takes time. So that means, because learning takes time, improvement takes time. Well, that doesn't set up well with the way organizations think about financial performance, because basically most organizations have short-term thinking with financial performance. What I mean by that is, we do something and we expect to see the financial results rather quickly. So we have lean thinking going on, and we have this learning process. So part of the economics of lean is to understand that the financial benefits of lean aren't direct nor immediate. So we commit to a lean strategy. We study, we learn, we solve problems as an organization. The primary outcome of making improvements is creating capacity. Another way to define capacity is creating more time. And I'll repeat this a few times because it's very important for everyone to understand. The primary outcome of continuous improvement is creating time. You eliminate the waste, you have more time. And so you have, from a lean viewpoint, it's using that time and how you apply that time inside your organization, how it creates economic value for you financially. And then when you start applying that capacity, that's where you start seeing sustainable financial success. Let me give you, and so what does that mean? Think about supply and demand. On the demand side, if you apply that capacity and time to deliver value to your customers, you create a competitive advantage. What's the financial outcome? Revenue growth. If you look at the supply side, think of your resources, your people, or maybe equipment, all the resources that perform the activities that deliver the value. So this idea of continuous improvement has financial outcomes also. You could, over time, reduce your costs. Lean will not give you short-term cost reduction, but long-term, your costs will be lower as a percentage of your revenue. You can increase your margin. Revenue increases margin, but maybe reducing some of your variable costs improves your margin. As I mentioned, you could increase capacity. You could create a lot of available capacity in your organization, and that improves productivity. Also, there's the increase in cash. And so when you're looking at analyzing, you have to consider all of these aspects of creating economic value. So that's the economics of lean. Now let's move into practicing lean inside the accounting department. So it's best to think about an improvement matrix. So you have lean accounting processes, and you want to look at this from a customer viewpoint and a business viewpoint. From a customer viewpoint, accounting is, your customers aren't really too concerned about your accounting department, your accounting function. Of course, unless they get an invoice that is incorrect, then it creates awareness. But from a business viewpoint, accounting is a necessary function. Now, you may do it with your own staff. You could totally outsource accounting if you want, but the accounting function is a necessary business function. So you need to look at how accounting works, both from the customer perspective and the business perspective. From the customer viewpoint, accounting needs to focus on cross-functional improvement and supporting your value streams that are creating value for your end user customers. Inside the accounting department, like the way we do our work, the way we process the invoices, the way we do month-end close, the way we budget, the way we do billing and cash collection. Those are all non-value added activities from a customer viewpoint, but they're necessary from your business viewpoint. So we want to create flow, improve quality, improve delivery, reduce our lead times. You also have a lot of unnecessary activities inside accounting, the waste, and we just want to eliminate that. So looking at this one more way, we want to look at procure to pay. We want to look at order to cash and improve those cycles. We also want to look at the information needs of our internal customers. Inside the accounting function, we want to improve payables, receivables, month-end, and budgeting. We want to improve quality, flow, delivery. And then your traditional wastes, the typical MUTA, the 7 or 8 wastes that are very knowledgeable in lean, we want to get rid of them. We also want to reduce overburden. We want to also level load the accounting processes. So that's sort of in general how we structure our improvement. And we really want to, I like to think accounting needs to just simplify. There's a lot of things you can work on, but one way I describe lean to people that work in accounting or people that work in administrative processes, I said, lean is really about quality and speed. And it's in that order. You want to deliver quality products or services as fast as possible. It's no more complicated than that. So we want accounting to focus on, the idea of Daqqa or quality at the source. How can we, let me back up before I talk here. Here's what's unique about accounting processes, like accounts payable or accounts receivable, even month end, is that accounting sees the quality problems. Like if you're trying to process an invoice for payment. And you get that information, the accounting is at the end of the procure to pay process. So the traditional work that accounting does is, well, we have an invoice error. We need to get it corrected to continue processing. So we just fix it, but we don't solve the problem. So this is a different mindset in accounting is, yes, we still have to fix the invoice, but we need to start thinking about how do we solve this problem so it doesn't occur any longer. So the idea of quality at the source is, how can we detect this abnormality at input? So it's not about the invoice, it's about the information that created the invoice and where did that occur, which is typically outside of accounting. We want to be able to stop and fix fast. We want quality at the source to be self-monitoring so that, if someone is completing information to process an invoice that will go to accounting, that it's done, they can correct themselves. And we need short feedback loops. I'm working in a finance department right now And one of their biggest problems is that it takes 20 days to approve an invoice. So this is not inside the accounting function, but it has to go to the department. And right now, the average time to approve the invoice is 20 days, even though it only takes probably about 20 minutes to approve it. So that's a long feedback loop, and that is not quality at the source. So we want to improve quality, focus on that. We also want to improve flow. Traditionally, accounting thinks more in terms of a push system. Okay, we push everything to people. For example, the invoice approval process that I just talked about. Well, accounting receives the invoice and they send the invoice to the proper person via email. That's push. That's not pull. So it waits, and actually the invoice has to be approved multiple times. So the first approver emails it to the second approver emails it to the third approver. So you have all that wait time in there. So that's a push system. So what we have to do is focus on flow, okay? And I call this the golden rule of flow, is that the flow time through any process is determined by the amount of work in that process. So the larger the queue of work, the longer the flow time. So what you have to do in accounting processes is limit the work, okay? And that's where you know, when a resource is available to do the work, you pull the work in, you don't push the work. Traditionally, what do we do in accounting? Everybody comes in to work every day, they sit down and they do their work. And it's very individualistic. So that's where we want to really establish daily lean management practices. I found this very effective in accounting to teach accounting people about what lean really is. Okay, how do we understand quality problems better? How do we understand flow? Accounting processes by their nature are abstract and invisible. Okay, we're processing information. That information is typically now just in computer systems. So it's not like we're a construction site where you can see the work being done. It's not like healthcare where you can see the healthcare providers treating the patients. A lot different. So what we want to do is establish visual management. You know, we need visual boards to understand what are the priorities of work. What is the status of the work? What is the status of the defects? We need daily huddles to understand, you know, how did we perform today? What are the problems and issues? How can we do daily root cause analysis of problems and issues, how it relates to quality and flow? How can we create short-term fixes? You know, if there's a problem with an invoice, how do we solve that problem really, really fast? And then long-term continuous improvement. The establishment of daily lean management practices really gets into the learning aspect of lean. We learn, accounting learns to work as a team. Accounting learns dependencies as opposed to just sitting at their desk and doing work. So that wraps up how do we practice lean in accounting. And now what I'd like to do is move on to the management accounting piece. Management accounting, as I said, is about the information used inside your business. And what's interesting, and I learned this as a chief financial officer and many other finance and accounting people have, is that when you commit to a lean strategy, the information needs inside the business change. They have to be adapted to how lean works and how the management of lean works. And that's where there's a big disconnect. For example, most of the time, many times, I get phone calls from business owners, chief executive officers, or maybe lean leaders. and they'll say, oh, accounting, we need to do lean accounting. Accounting is, they're thoroughly disengaged from lean. They don't understand it. They're sending us the wrong information. And, you know, they think it's about the people in accounting, but it's not. It's the management accounting system. So we need to build awareness in the organization that management accounting must change and improve when you adopt lean as your business strategy. So what are really the goals of lean management accounting? One is to improve the quality of decision making. That's what we want to do. If you give people the right information, they're going to make better decisions. You give people wrong information, well, you know what? They might not make the right decisions. So the information needs to be relevant. So it needs to be very specific for any analysis or decision that is going on. Because when you're doing an analysis and there is a potential financial outcome, you know, you're basically making some assumptions and you're trying to predict. And so if we get the specific information that's needed for that decision in whatever context that may be, the person or the people doing the analysis and making the recommendation, they're going to get better at predicting the outcomes. We also need the information to be reliable. And what I mean by that is that it's verifiable and valid. It represents reality, what is actually going on at that time. It's not estimates, it's not numbers that nobody understands. Lean management accounting is also about creating standardized work and how we do all our analysis and financial practices throughout the organization, because you have a lot of financial management going on. It goes on in functions. It doesn't just go on in accounting. And you have to begin thinking about analysis and decision-making in terms of plan, do, check, act. What we're trying to do is analyze a case and understand, you know, what kind of outcome do we want? And PDCA works very well in lean management accounting. So where do you start with improving your management accounting system? Well, it starts just like lean. What are the principles? One is the principle of value. Deliver the relevant and reliable information to meet your internal customers' needs. And as I said, these needs change because of lean. We want to deliver through flow and pull the right information at the right place to the right people at the right time, whatever those may be. And the flow and the pull, depending, it really changes a whole lot. There's daily cycles, there's weekly cycles. Whenever any team of people is doing an analysis and trying to make a decision, well, that goes on constantly throughout the organization. So they always need the most updated information. This is a lot different than the traditional accounting monthly cycle of producing the financial statements. And accounting needs to be aware of this. We want to improve the quality of our decision making. And finally, we want to always focus on improving our management accounting system. So the purpose of lean management accounting is to develop this deep understanding of systems and relationships. We talked about the economics of lean. And there's three real aspects of performance that need to be continually analyzed because they all impact each other. And it's the relationships between operating performance, our capacity performance, and our financial performance. Each one has an impact on the other. These are very dynamic relationships. And when you're looking at any business operation, and what I mean by that is whether you're in banking, whether you're in insurance, whether you're in financial services, oil and gas, construction, or healthcare, these relationships exist in your operating processes. And so this information can be derived and used because you need to understand how well are we operating in terms of like a value stream in healthcare, and what's the impact of the value stream's performance on our financial performance. How well is our capacity performing? How much waste do we have? And what's the impact of reducing that waste? Our operating practices, again, more of the detailed cycles, and I can't get into this in this session. One, there's this daily cycle, okay? Lean is all about understanding how are we doing daily, sometimes even more frequently than daily. So what we wanted to do here is establish a link between operating performance and financial outcomes. What we're trying to accomplish is understand root causes of potential financial issues before they actually become financial issues. We're trying to get preventative here, okay? We're trying to prevent and sometimes in companies, the monthly financials come out and everybody's surprised at the results. Well, you have these daily lean practices in place, and if you begin to learn these connections, you can get better at controlling the financial outcomes. On a weekly basis, we talk about managing the value stream, managing our continuous improvement, and how is the entire value stream performing on a week-to-week basis. Then we have our decision-making time frame, and again, this goes on all across the organization very, very often. And so what's the relevant, reliable information that's needed, and how can we move it from just silos to more cross-functional decision-making and get all the parties involved that need to be involved to analyze the decision. Think of this as going from batch to flow, okay? The batch for accounting, the traditional batch is month-end, the monthly cycle, the month-end work, okay? And so everything flows from there. But, the flow aspect is we have a daily cycle, we have a weekly cycle, we have a decision-making cycle. We still have the monthly cycle, but we have to add these cycles in to our work in the distribution of the information. So I'm going to wrap things up with a couple slides, and then we can open it up for some questions. So I hear this term a lot, and it usually comes from lean practitioners. And the idea is, oh, there's traditional accounting. And I'm a financial person. I'm a certified public accountant in the United States. And I always tell non-financial people, don't use the phrase traditional accounting, because there is no such thing as traditional accounting. There's only one way to do financial accounting, okay? And anybody in finance can tell you that. And when you use the phrase traditional accounting, when you're talking to financial and accounting people, they think you're talking about financial accounting practices. But it's more about traditional accounting thinking. How do we think in accounting? Okay, how do we think traditionally? We focus on financial reporting, which we have to do, but that's our sole focus. We try to fix the numbers because we got to get the numbers out and report the numbers. We believe in linear cause and effect, that we understand the root causes of everything. And then we also become isolated experts. That's the idea of, well, go talk to accounting about that. Oh, we got to get accounting involved. That it's the traditional outsider's view of accounting, where you have these people that sit in front of their computers all day and they crunch numbers and they report the numbers and they tell you what everything means. That's what we want to get away from in lean accounting. How do we do it? Well, we do it by aligning lean thinking and what I call lean financial thinking. And there are 5 principles of lean financial thinking, and they align with the 5 principles of lean thinking. What we want to do is focus on how is our organization creating economic value? How is our lean strategy doing that? In terms of revenue growth, cost reduction and cost control, creating capacity, increasing cash. Value streams from a financial viewpoint are the profit centers of any lean organization. And in a value stream from an operational viewpoint, you focus on improving flow, improving delivery, improving productivity. Well, what we want to do financially is maximize, and actually a lot of the outcome is, if we do that operationally, we want to focus on maximizing the profitability of each value stream. Flow and pull. Our information has to be aligned and relevant to improving flow. It also has to be aligned to supporting all our continuous improvement activities. This is where lean accounting creates value with the right information. And then finally, we have to think about lean accounting, and especially the management accounting, as a learning system. Okay, we're bringing new information into the business, not just for accounting, but we want value streams to develop a level of financial literacy, not in terms of how do you do accounting, but it's more about understanding the relationships between how we operate and financial outcomes. I always like to say that lean accounting is all about creating a vast group of financial analysts in your organization, not just the financial people. And by the way, finance and accounting employees can learn a lot from the operational people also. So there's collaboration there. So how do you do a lean accounting transformation? It's really no simple than any lean transformation process. We want to create awareness, okay? We want to align thinking about what is lean accounting? What does it mean to our organization? We need senior leaders, business owners, CEOs. We need financial leadership, and really most of the people in finance, and we need operational leadership to have this common awareness of lean accounting. That's the first step. Then you build desire. Okay, what are the benefits of doing all this? So you can look at, what is our current state? What is our future state? You can do this many ways, through assessments, through talking to internal customers, but you got to develop, what are the goals and the benefits? Then you simply demonstrate. Lean accounting, you begin the transformation process by conducting pilots, just like you do in a lean organization. And so you start small, you start with like one value stream in your organization, or one location if you're a larger organization. What you want to do is you want to develop the real information, and you want to show the benefits. And then finally you get into sustaining the management accounting system through standardized work and coaching and overall improvement. This is a slide that that we have on our website. It's the same 4 steps, but it really gets into who needs to be involved and what are the outcomes. And I just wanted to share that with you. So that wraps things up. Before I go to questions, if you want to learn more, you can go to our website. You can join our mailing list for all event announcements, blogs, videos. We have a lot of recorded webinars. We also have some free assessment forms. If you want to contact me, here's my email address, my phone number. Be glad to answer any questions, talk to you more about lean accounting. We have a lean accounting community chat, which actually we're taking the month of August off. But if you're interested in this weekly community chat, join our mailing list, and then you'll get the announcements when it begins back in September. And then we also have a lean accounting community on Slack. That's the link. And this is a private community. You can request an invitation, and it's just a place for people that are either practicing lean accounting or interested in lean accounting can get to know each other and connect. And we started it about a month and a half ago, and we're just going to build it slowly. So anyway, that wraps up my presentation, and let's take some questions if there are any. How do we do the questions?
Okay. Actually, I will give you one right now.
Okay.
What is the biggest challenge you have come across in getting accounting and finance folks actively involved in lean transformation?
It's getting them to understand what lean really is. And, you know, accounting people think in terms of accounting processes, and those are very abstract. The best way to do it is get them involved in continuous improvement. Have them, whether it's them participating in a continuous improvement event, to understand exactly what does all this mean? Or, you know, how do we improve our month-end close process? How do we improve the quality in payables? Demonstrate it to them. Accounting, here's sort of the way accounting people are, and I just encountered this again last week. Accounting people like to talk about how things work. Okay, you know, operational people, they want to show you how things work. You know, accounting people just talk about it. But you got to make it, you got to make lean visual to them. That's what I mean by getting them involved in improvement.
Okay, thank you very much. Here's another question. You use the term lean accounting thinking. What are the first few steps to move people into this new thinking?
The first steps are to understand what lean thinking is. What are the, you know, you have the 5 principles. Hold on one second. I think it's really going through this process. Do accounting and finance people understand the 5 principles of lean? You know, do they have a general understanding of what they are? And then begin to relate each of the lean thinking principles about, you know, it's sort of the economics of lean. Well, how does lean work financially? And that's why I talk about the economics of lean a lot, is if you can explain lean the way accounting understands numbers today, you'll make a connection. But if you try to talk about it abstractly in you know, lean terminology, if you start using things like Daqqa and Kanban systems and pull systems, you're going to lose them. So initially, talk their language in some form or fashion. And, you know, what do accounting people understand? They understand numbers. Talk about it in terms of numbers.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, one other question here is, how can we communicate the value in this new thinking?
The value is really about understanding that lean creates capacity, and it's the application of that capacity. Here's one simple way I explain lean financially. You know, if you understood that you've created 10% more capacity in a value stream, can you sell 10% more of your products or services? Now, typically they say yes. And then I say to them, I said, okay, so how much money will you make? And they try to go through this complex calculation, but it's really, really simple. If you have 10% capacity and you can sell 10% more, the profitability of those 10% additional sales is the revenue less the variable costs of those sales. That's it. There's no other costs involved. And the incremental profitability is huge. It's much, much greater than how much you're making today because, and again, I couldn't get into this in a lot of detail, most of your costs are fixed. Like your labor cost is fixed. You pay your people wages and salaries. They work so many hours a week. So your labor is your capacity. And if you create 10% capacity, that means your people have 10% more time to move orders or, you know, deliver products or services to your customers. You don't have to hire more people. That's productivity. And that's how the lean accounting information needs to be aligned to understand those types of decisions.
Okay, thank you. And here we have one last question.
Okay.
In lean, inventory is waste.
Yes.
Yes. How does lean accounting address inventory as an asset or a liability?
Well, I said that lean accounting doesn't change financial reporting. So you still have to report your financial statements according to your financial reporting requirements. Around the world, inventory is an asset. It has to be reported on your balance sheet. However, it's how you think about it. Okay? And so, for example, we want to focus, one of our primary performance measurements in lean accounting is the days of inventory. You want to focus operations on reducing the days of inventory. That will reduce the inventory value that you report, and it will create a whole lot of cash. The other thing is, I didn't talk about this, but you want to look at how much material you are buying from a value stream perspective, because you buy material and you can buy material and you can do three things with the material. You can use it and ship your products, you can stock it, or you can scrap it. So you want to reduce your stock, you want to reduce your scrap, so you measure it. So what everyone has to understand, and financial people understand it, is your balance sheet, your financial statements, it's like a picture. It's a picture at the end of the month. And so lean accounting is, let's focus on measuring, and understanding, why do we have inventory? From an operational viewpoint, what improvements can we make to reduce our reliance on inventory? And how can we measure that on a weekly basis and look at that improvement? And then eventually, we will start seeing that inventory number drop on our monthly balance sheets over time. So that's a long answer to a simple question. Sorry.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, it is now 8:05 in Dubai, and we will continue with Engineer Samar Abu Daqqa, Group Director of Cost Control for Engineering Contracting Company. here in the United Arab Emirates. Samar Abu Daqqa has a wealth of experience across a broad range of sectors, primarily in cost control and budgeting, and has shared his learnings at various conferences. With over 2 decades of experience in the Middle East, Samar has been involved in a wide range of projects, from low-rise housing schemes and major high-rise towers. He also holds an internationally recognized credential in lean construction management through the Association of General Contractors of America. Through building and enhancing the cost control systems, he has ensured delivery of efficient, effective, and reliable methods and practices, including monitoring cash flows, forecasting estimated costs at completion, corrective action, and feedback. So with no further ado, I turn the floor over to Engineer Samar.
Thank you very much, Deborah. Good evening, everybody, and good morning to whoever not in our region. Eid Mubarak in advance. I will not delay, I'll just share my presentation. Right. I work for an engineering contracting company. Just a bit of an introduction so you understand the capacity of the company I'm coming from, that we implemented lean. It is a well-established construction company, started in 1975, and grown organically. When there is an opportunity, there was a gap filled. So Abanos, as affiliate company for fit out and joinery, established in 85, then United Master for electromechanical, then PMI for metal, Aurora for real estate, and go on. We have all these companies established, well coordinated, and targeting to achieve customer requirements to the highest level and on time within budget. Now, we come to the subject, which is lean. What is lean? According to the Lean Construction Institute, it is a set of ideas practiced by individuals in the construction industry based on the holistic pursuit of continuous improvement aimed at maximizing costs and minimizing value. Now, I will take you into a journey where I'm sure all of you, whatever the sector you're working in, have this question that how can we implement lean? What is lean? How can we implement it? What it will do to our sector? How can we buy it to internal stakeholders and external stakeholders? So I will take you now into a journey where how we come up with lean in ECC. What was the obstacles? How did we implement it? There will be some theoretical things, but majority is practical. And I hope it will add value to yourself as listeners, and you can get away from this webinar some valid and valued information that can help you in your own journey. Now, the question starts with always the market. In the market, as you know, and now with the COVID, it adds to it, very competitive. The scarcity of resources and jobs. So you have to look for the most efficient price, and the price is fixed nowadays with all knowledge of these customers, knowing exactly what to buy and where to buy it, and the technology is adding to that. So where we can look, I claim that we can look into our own waste, and rather than cutting cost or laying off laborers or staff. By the way, we are about 9,000 staff and labor in our company. No, we look into waste, and this waste, consider it as a bank account that nobody's touching. You are assuming certain hours spent extra to collect data in a non-value added activity. And you are assuming certain waste when you cut something, or certain waste when you drill something. So this is a bank where you can withdraw, I claim, 60% of it back to your working capital and margin that can help you survive and compete. Now, what is the most important or problem that need to be solved in lean construction? It is actually all concentrated under this one problem, which is workers waiting for work and work waiting for workers. Now, we designed our lean implementation to be in 4 phases. First, an introduction to ECC, staff and labor, applying the concepts in a pilot activity first. So we pick up certain activities and apply this concept to it. And then we pick up a pilot project for implementation, finally rollout, planning and implementation. Now, currently, what is our progress? We started end of 2017, beginning of 2018. In 2019, we achieved 100% productivity and cost efficiency. So majority of our activities now are lean. In 2020, was our plan to optimize construction through lean production. As you can see, this is the blue color here is the plan and the orange is the actual for each of our stages. We are in the pilot project implementation now, even it extended due to this COVID, but we are implementing in this pilot project, as well as the rolling out planning. So we did not wait till one project achieve the goal incomplete. Yeah. Sorry, I thought I pressed share. All right, okay. We reached to this, our progress. So 88% of our staff has gone through our on-site lean training, because people is the most important factor in this implementation. 63% of our supervisors and foremen and sergeants have been trained. And this is the percentage of lean application status on projects. As you can see, masonry, tiling across each one of our projects has been implemented 75%. So if we have 10 projects, 7 projects is implementing masonry lean application. This is the starting point. We have made the first lean introduction and picked up certain people from different disciplines in our organization, from project managers to planning to quality to estimation to cost control, site engineers. It's a variety. And as you can see, Ms. Deborah and Sam was there also at the beginning from Lean Gulf Institute. And it was challenging because, as you can see, we brought our oldest project managers and general managers of affiliate companies to be in this introduction and tell them what we are talking about, what is lean. And it was very interesting discussion. All the way with the SEAM Lean certificate. We have 20 of our engineers Lean CM certified from the general contractor, American general contractor. We claim to be the first 20 to be certified in lean construction in the Middle East, or at least in UAE, in the Emirates. This helped us to, again, diversify and spread the knowledge. Also, we selected certain departments, so the knowledge is spread all over. This is our road show. We started by educating people. We went to sites. For every site, we executed a Kaizen and implemented the 5S. And people were interested to see what we are improving, how this Kaizen can be implemented, and the value stream mapping as well. And the engineers was very cooperative. our culture also in ECC helped a lot because we encourage development and ideas in-house. Yes, in the construction, it's very hectic. You have a lot of, imagine, put it this way, it's never like any other industry. There's a set of people who are met for the first time in their life, each one of them doing different trade and doing a bespoke product. This is the first time this project has been built, and it will be last time. So this is how difficult this is. However, we went through all of this challenges, and I claim to be successful in this. This is one of our value stream mapping we implemented for ceramic tiling installation. And as you can see, the current state reduced from 7,000 minutes to 5,000, 28%. And in the production capacity, this is the non-value added, sorry, and the production capacity increased 60%. And I'll show you later how ECC achieved lean. Now, this is the interesting question. We reduced the non-value adding time. We reduced inventory. Nick was talking about inventory earlier through implementation of supermarket. I think majority of you know about lean concept in supermarket. I'll explain it later also. Increasing production capacity, reducing the defects rate of protection sheet, for example, reducing defect rate through changing of the process sequence, value stream mapping, visual management, reduce cycle time, implement the 5S, centralized tile cutting, for example, tool to increase productivity. The tools was there, but was not the goal. We brought the tool to show that we can do the improvement using this tool. Creating standards, which we have done to 70% of our activities. Based on the above definition, the figure below show the principles of lean, identify customer and specify value, identify the map, the value stream, create flow by eliminating waste, respond to customer pull, and pursue perfection, which is continuous improvement. Type of waste. Now, these are the 8 types of wastes. You can add them all in one word called downtime, defects, overproduction, waiting, non-utilizing talent, transportation, inventory, motion, and extra processing. I'll be showing you actual examples now. Defects. It is an effect caused by rework, scrap, and incorrect information. For example, this is how you receive material in pallets. And since we are not using the proper pallet, all these breakages and waste happen. Sometimes because of wrong information, you have to break the block or the concrete. You just misplaced it because the information was wrong. This is defects. Overproduction is production that is more than needed or before it is needed even. This is a real struggle in construction. Sometimes the project team, if they find a wall ready to be plastered, they just do it. Why not? It's an open activity. Well, actually, it's not right because you are opening waste to yourself. Because work in progress is also will affect your production and your value adding, need more coverage and protection and so on. In this case, this overproduction, if you do the block and the plaster is still late, you gain nothing because you are not covering that block. Waiting. As you can see, this is a very common picture. This is labor standing, waiting for something, either instruction or for the next step to start. This is waiting is. Non-utilized tenants. This we faced a lot, and actually it helped in our lean implementation journey. We selected certain labor, and for example, to put for them the internal subcontract, and we tell them, okay, let's do the ceramic activity. And what we realized that other masons on site come and approach us and said, sir, we have been working for 2 years as helpers. We know how to do masonry. There was a problem with the visa or I don't know what. So we immediately put them into the test and it was correct. So we were losing production out of these people because we were not looking. So when we opened this challenge for lean, they come and raise their hand. Transportation, unnecessary movement of product and material. This is done through our logistic plan at the start. We are using BIM, building information module now to help us also 3D and check our logistic tower crane, hoists, teleporters, and so on that help us cover the project and use properly, efficiently the machines and less transportation. Inventory. Inventory is excess product of material that being processed. As you can see here, stacking block will lead to damage definitely. Stacking AC ducts will lead to damage whatever you do. So cement bags or chemicals, they, labor tend to just open and go. So you just deliver what is needed as much as possible in construction. This is why we come up with a solution to this. I'll tell you later. Motion. As you can see, this is unnecessary movement by people walking. So this guy, for example, has to go and put water, has to cover the conduits, has to go and cut the ceramic tile. So he had to grab certain tool from the store and come back to it, and then cut the piece and bring it, or break the block because it was not cut the right size because of MEP fixings. This is all motion issues, or such plumbing openings that need to be cut through the ceramic. This is waste of time. You have to take the tile, mark it, cut it, bring it back, and then the pipe will not fit. And all of this is wrong motion. Extra processing. This is an example where when you have plastered wall, the masons tend to do the job to the maximum and make it as smooth as possible, while you know that ceramic is coming, for example, or a kitchen wardrobe. So this is where we interfere until then this is not lean. We just use the coloring of walls. I'll show you later how to stop this over-processing. Eliminating the waste. It is leadership, and I repeat, leadership. You have to show by example. You have to do the Gamba work. You have to go to the site and walk the walk with the trades and labor and understand with the engineers what's happening on site and show them that you care about these ideas to eliminate this waste. Make tasks easy. Use lean tool and even practice tool like 5S, Kaizen, variation, pull planning, etc. In variation, I meant what in lean, they call it lowering the river. Currently, the variation can be in-house, not even external. So we have to eliminate this. So we have to lower the river because we cannot keep any risk factor that we can make our price fat and lose the project or create claims. Consider quality, cost, productivity, and morale and safety. This is the 5S, the famous principle. I will not talk theoretically. It's sort, sit in order, shine, standardize, and sustain. And as you can see, these are examples from our projects on how we implemented 5S, and even in our factories, the joinery factory. This is the Kaizen, change good or change for better. Majority of our engineers like this principle or this terminology now, and they always talk about Kaizen. Well, let's do a Kaizen here or there. Now, these are examples of Kaizens. This is to test waterproofing in wet areas like toilets. Before we were bringing the water by bucket, removing it by bucket. So an engineer heard about our lean implementation, and we applied a movement, a time and movement study, and find out why we don't put a submersible pump and just pump this water. I know the level is shallow. So the same engineer, they thought about it and fixed this pipe that will take the last 1 centi. And yet we developed on that the water is being used to the other flat toilet or kitchen testing. So you are not wasting the water. It's faster. And when that labor removed the water, he was damaging the waterproofing. So it leads to bad quality. So we stopped that as well. Variation caused by fluctuation in the process and results for predetermined steps. There is common cause variation and there is special cause variation. Why I'm concentrating on variation? Because this is the major, one of the major reasons projects are not efficient and productive in construction because of changes in-house or externally. And that has to be eliminated by creating a buffer. And that buffer, whether it's an extra material delivered before time or extra lag in the duration of the plan, unfortunately now we have to reduce this as well. So this is why. So we create a buffer to minimize the variation, but we have to lower the river and reduce or remove these variations in current situation. Lean thinker daily task is to identify the waste, eliminate the waste, and then continue improvement. And identify the waste using what we just discussed, the downtime, we call it in initials, and then eliminate that waste, considering the resources, which is quality, cost, delivery, morale, and safety. Make tasks simple and easy, 5S, Kaizen, visual management, and then plan, do, check, act for the continuous improvement. To eliminate downtime, we should consider QCDMS and sustain with PDCA. Sorry for all these initials, but it will help you remember all these, what we're talking about. Tag time versus cycle time. I think this is a secret also that can help in any of your implementation. Tag time is the production rate to satisfy the customer demand. And the customer, in our case, can be the next trade. Yani the block is delivering to the plaster team. The plaster team is delivering to the paint team. Ultimately, the customer of the building is our final customer. So how many walls or square meters or rebar or concrete shall be done in a day or a week to satisfy the requirement and do the tag time? This is tag time. Cycle time is what you're doing actually. What is the cycle time to finish a flat plastering? So we have to make sure that tag time is higher than cycle time, so we can meet the customer demand, not less. 3 components of standardized work is the tag time, standard, in-process stock, and work sequence. Work sequence is a very important issue that I'll show you example also how we implement it. This is one of our value stream mapping in which we identified that shifting sand is the most issue here, and ceramic. So we said, let's implement the supermarket. Everybody was laughing at the beginning, supermarket, just go to a major store, mega store or some mall, but they all understand it's at the end. And because we had a challenge on site, how can you bring any material or tool in 10 seconds, wherever floor you are, whatever phase you are, what building you are in, if you are 16 building in the same project, or it's a 30, 50 story building, or if it's a park between areas and zones. So we created this supermarket. Now it needs a lot of analysis and calculation from structural, can this flat carry this material or not, and so on. So, for example, in this case, we identified that there is 5 days stock required to do the work, and that leads to value added time, non-value added time of 7,020. We reduced this to 1 day, and the value added, non-value added reduced to 5,400 minutes. And this way it helped us to level the activity. Then we went to quality and tile protection. Why don't we do the grouting immediately after tiling instead of waiting for 2-3 days for testing and it get accepted by the client? These are the steps in which the protection sheet was getting damaged and the tile is getting damaged. We just, in one step change in the sequence, we said to do the grouting first. We eliminated that step and the 50% saving done. And this is what we did. We leveled the, we balanced the timeline. Visual management, this is what we start to implement in each of our building on floor, where every trade will highlight in his own color if he's ready for that particular flat or building or zone, and ready for the second trade to come. Now there is handoffs happening, but this is visual and it helps a lot. And we developed on this later via using BIM and 3D. And the picture you see at the bottom is how it should look like. So we are showing them before and after, and what is the quality required for ceramic tile flooring, for example. So there is no doubt or question. So we have to reduce the cycle time, increase the production capacity. This is the 5S again. Weekly percentage plan. This is another tool of the last planner. We implemented it our own way. We created the weekly progress meeting in which we pull what should be done to make it will be done, and to know from our engineers from every discipline what can be done. And then we follow up weekly what was the constraints of not achieving this program and how it can be solved. Now this eliminates 3 major problems in our standard planning process. Whatever mega project you are working on, using whatever software, Primavera, MS Project, the clause 14, they call it in FEDEC, is always theoretical, coming between the project management team and the production, the operation team. So this weekly work plan eliminate this gap. And also dynamic. It is there is a lot of variations, as I discussed earlier, as I said earlier, in construction. We cannot wait to go to the master plan to change the plan so we can work and change our progress or process. So this weekly plan help us change the plan dynamically. And most importantly is commitment. This way, the MEP, the plumber, the block, the landscape guy cannot blame the program. He's committed. He gave the commitment last week, and he shall say why it's not achieved. And then comes the related person to come up with a solution and implement it for these constraints. We call them parking lots. There's 5 levels of last planner. As you also know, this is a little bit theoretical. There's the master schedule, phase schedule, make ready planning, weekly work planning, and daily huddle. The last 2 is the 2 we implemented really, and the commitment are made in public and tracked, meeting, documentation, and PPC, percentage. I know it sounds like school, but you get percentage of your commitment weekly, and we know each discipline who's doing the best. And this is how steps to implement the weekly work planning. I don't think we have time to explain how to do it, but I just explained really how you should bring from the closed or the base program, the 2 weeks look ahead, ask the related trade what can be done from this will or should, and then put it in a program and follow it weekly with a constraint and parking lot table, and then go to the related person, whoever he is in the organization, to solve his own problem. Saying that it's not easy, to be frank, but it is doable. And if we can do it in construction, you can do it in any sector. And this brings you a lot of solutions to the problems, because some problems are hidden and you will never know it as executive or as a project manager unless you go down to this level. Again, you are not micromanaging. They are doing their own management, the team, the operation, but you are now in the loop and giving the direction. If the PCC is decreasing, ECC site team must ask the involved subcontractor to determine and note the root cause of failure to complete a task by using 5 whys. This is another tool in Lean technique in order to correct and revert the recurrence of the constraints. This is some of our teams implementing the PPC, the weekly progress plan. This is before COVID, so social distancing was not there. As you can see, the parking lot is on the wall. This is the percentage complete for every company. As you can see, fluctuating 60%, 80%. And everybody is exposed with his percentage complete and need to have. This is the parking lot, action promised, what is the quality improvement and how it is improved. Implementation of the 5S, this is the picture which I just showed you earlier. Centralize the cutting. This is very interesting also. One of the Kaizens, when we did the value stream mapping in ceramic tiling, find out that cutting was majorly a problem in quality and progress. So we said, let's centralize it and make a cutting list that is optimized through using BIM again. You can do it using Excel, don't worry, but you can use BIM to optimize. So you know this cut piece can go to which flat and which room, or which room in the hotel, or whatever place it is. And this make us reduce up to 50% of the wastage in ceramic. And you'll be surprised once you start implementing. And these are the steps. I'll explain it very quickly. You have to take actual measurement from site, put it on these equations or to the BIM model, and it will give you the cut piece in which you centralize and make the cutting, then shift it to the supermarket, where that subcontractor or your mason will go and take the related cut piece only and not waste his time on cutting or taking measurements. And I would like to mention here that respect to the labor and the operator brought us solutions. And one of the operators came and said, well, sir, we are cutting it the wrong way. Why we are cutting from the long edges? Let us cut from the side edges. And as you can see in the picture, it increases the saving on the cutting and the time by 10%. And I praised this person and made them know that every idea is welcome. This is the centralized, one of the centralized cutting places now we are implementing in our projects. As you can see, there's marks on the pallets, on the floors. Everybody knows where his cut piece is. And we start to use small tools that will show difference. Our labor or our staff or trades was not using earlier, like this grouting kit. Instead of using his hand or a nail to fill in the grout, we bought this plastic piece. That was fantastic because it has different sizes and thicknesses on the edge. It improved the quality, less wastage, and the productivity. This is what we call anglized template. Instead of taking all these measurements, you just make the template, screw the edges, you will have the size proper. And this also machine was a surprise to our masons. We told them instead of cutting by angles and grinders. The healthy or dual have now a drill bit that is to the size of the hole, depend to certain. Now again, tool is not the goal. Tool is just to show that we can achieve this change. And this is what we did. We standardized at the end the process for this activity after we did the pilot project implementation. This is the concrete reinforcement, visual management, especially with post-tension implementation. The marking and the areas helped a lot our project to identify the areas in big zones. This is one of the ideas, a toolbox segregation of tools on site, rather than look for it or it's a bag that's thrown, to improve the housekeeping of the project, as well as less time for the labor looking for his own tool. This is the concrete reinforcement. This is ergometric. As you can see, the comparison here, we did the case study of the usual how the rebar is tied manually or using this machine. As you can see, the guy is standing and it's automatic. So he was doing a fantastic job. And the productivity was doubled using this tool. And the wire expense was different, but we achieved double the productivity. This is the blockwork material where we do the supermarket. And on the right-hand side, what we call AC boxes supermarket. While building your block or partition, we have these boxes ready where the duct will cross. Instead of earlier we were building it after we build the wall or cutting or drilling. So now you build the box with the wall. And the sizes are already ready in a supermarket for our mason to collect. This is the solid block cutting machine. Then this is the AAC cutting machine. We were the first people, I claim, in UAE to bring this machine into the construction because this AAC cutting block can be cut by a handsaw, but it was clumsy, need cleaning everywhere, and took a lot of time. So we came up with this idea, why don't we bring something like the solid block cutting machine? And it was available with certain manufacturer. We brought it and the traders loved it. And improves quality. As you can see, this guy, instead of cutting on site the AAC, we bring him the AAC cut to the chamfer as required. These are also ideas of 5S, where the mesh for the block, the tools are, the ties of different sizes are in boxes, ready for that tiler to do the work. This is also a project implementation. As you can see in the door nip, the block size cannot match. So it took a lot of time from our mason to cut the block to the size. We approached the manufacturer and he said, hey, I can manufacture for you this size. And it was no problem. So instead of cutting pieces, we brought it ready. I know it sounds common sense, but you'll be amazed what you can do from what the things you are doing daily. And we did two things actually. One was the peer shadow type. So one mason or one engineer is just shadowing another engineer while he's doing the work, or mason. And the second type was videoing, and we just made a video of the mason or of the engineer doing his work, daily work, and let him watch it himself and say, what was wrong? What do you think you could have done better? And this is how we come with certain ideas, which we go through and call our suppliers, in fact, and manufacturers. And this is one of the ideas implemented. This is another machine for putting the nail machine. These are gun machines for nail in the walls. We found out that there is another machine that is safe. So you don't just drill it like a gun. It will not push the button, allow you to push button if there is no solid surface. So it was safe here, more safe. It was used for all surfaces, whether it is AAC, block, wood. So it also eliminates that we are using 2 or 3 guns. So this is one of the implementations. Again, this is a clever solution to a spot level for plaster or rendering. We use the socket itself as the spot level instead of creating new sockets. This is the avoiding the extra processing as we discussed earlier. We should show that this area does not need that. This is assuring right mortar mixing ratio with a proper measuring tool, rather than just from experience that labor or operator put in some bags in this mixer. He put for him boxes in specific sizes. This will improve the quality as well as the productivity. This is doing the protection, which assure quality again and avoid rework. This is the waterproofing example we just mentioned earlier. These are the outturns. Now, by the way, in any sector you are working, people want to see results. Not all people, but majority. And I suggest that you show your results. That's why we shifted the plan from pilot project to pilot activities. Try to do activities that will give you results, that people will start buy-in and talk to each other about, let's consult the lean team. And by the way, the lean team is not doing it. It's the people in that department or trade is doing it. And I advise you not to do it yourself. You have to give the guidance, the forms, and the ideas to help with the brainstorming. So we started to show some results, whether it's a cost or time or quality. Rolling out planning and implementation. These are the percentage of progress we achieved. These are the running projects and what did we achieve in it. For example, masonry work. It's implemented in job 352 and 359. It is activity is finished. We did not start here. And this triangle show setting up lane. So we send them the standard. We start the meeting with the operation. And we tell them this is required. Bring in the supermarket, the cutting list, the cutting machine, make sure the information is done, the approval, the material, inspection. That's what we do here. Last, lean project delivery system. Now, in order to implement this idea, among other ideas of the lean implementation, by the way, simultaneously we implemented BIM. And now we are looking into RPA in our accounting and finance. In order to do that, there should be education to the client and consultants and engineers, not only contractor. So from a contractor point of view, we strongly recommend that lean project delivery system is implemented as a whole, starting from the design stage. Now, lean project delivery is seeking an understanding of the owner's need, want, and desire towards meeting them, facilitating a shared understanding of the business case, aligning 3 project variables, end, means, and constraints, supporting a progressive conversation among project variables. The 5 big ideas is value, collaboration, optimizing project, not pieces, don't work in silos, tightly couple learning with actions, increase relatedness, and project as network of commitment. Road to growth is always open, and we don't want a busy site. What we want is a site where workers are working on right work and doing it in the most efficient manner. Last thing I would like to say that in a recent report I have read in McKinsey, they are saying that construction contribute to 13% of the GPD, although through the last 20 years, the productivity growth is 1% in construction. And $1.3 billion can be done if we improve this construction sector, which we all intend to. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you for that very interesting presentation. You have some remarkable results.
Thank you
And
very
it's
much.
very good work. One very quick question. How did you manage to overcome the barrier of language with your labor, given that I know that you've got at least 3 or 4 different languages as a minimum going on at the same time?
Good question. As you can see at the beginning, our labor is of different languages, and also our supervisors. So in Dubai, there's over, as you know, Deborah, there's over than 150 cultures and languages. And during our implementation, and we call it roadshow, we made sure that there's 3 languages or 3 instructors with a different language talking, as well as in writing. So not only language barriers, you have also literature. Some people cannot read, especially in the working sector. So we made sure that the people talking the language is part of our team. That was one of the solutions. But trust me, it's a snowball effect. If one supervisors understand the process and he see that it is beneficial to his trade, it will be spread very fast.
Yes, most definitely. I also recall that you went to a lot of visual management efforts where you were integrating pictures, and even your quality manager was videotaping things.
Yes,
among various members.
Yeah, even with voiceovers. So in 2 languages. So you can select actually in our SharePoint which language you want to listen to, but it will show you how do we do this activity in quality by video and pictures of good and bad. We have something called VNCR. We show you how it's done badly before and how it should be done through pictures and videos. Yeah.
Yes, there were a large number of very different types of innovation and innovative ways in which you've carried out the implementation. And it's been one of the quickest adaptations that I've seen, which speaks well because, as we know, the construction industry is very challenged, as are many industries today. So I would just like to thank you, Mr. Samer, for your time and attention to spending time with us today and giving us this presentation.
Thank you very much, Deborah, and thanks for the Dubai Quality Group and for all the attendees. I hope we have added something to them, and my channel communication is open for any question. Thank you very much.
Welcome back. And now we will be hearing from Professor Farhoud Kafi, and he will be talking to us about connecting the dots with strategic entrepreneurial innovation leadership. With over 35 years of teaching business and management experience, Professor Kafi is a recognized leader in the innovative education and entrepreneurship fields. He served as president of Babson Global and managing director of e-learning. He worked to implement the college's global vision of entrepreneurial education and helped faculty and educational institutions to move beyond traditional entrepreneurship programs to bring positive social change. Alongside Babson's global consortium partners, he wrestled with the challenges of a changing educational platform where global education, e-learning, and international collaboration have become critical. Previously, Professor Kafi was the Dean of Student Affairs, Senior Associate Dean, and Director of the Finance Program at Hult International Business School, and he's based in Cambridge, Massachusetts, USA. With that, I will turn the floor over to Professor Kafi.
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning to all of you. First, I would like to thank the Dubai Quality Group, Chairman Omar, Lean Gulf Institute, and the privilege of joining the distinguished colleague on this transformative seminars and summit. The challenges that we face today is enormous. As the COVID-19 has indicated, we are trying to figure out our way through these maze that it has been created for all of us in terms of the decision, in terms of a strategy, in terms of leadership. So the key question becomes really where we go from there. What I would like to do is just using the presentation that you have seen over the past 2 sessions and today to connect really a blueprint for what needs to be done in the 21st century. Given the challenge of technology, given the challenge of the leadership, given the challenge of education, as those of us in educational field are facing every day vis-a-vis the student, faculty, safety, and the delivery of the knowledge. So what I like to do is just go over the slide, share my screen with you. To that, let me just continue with the discussion that we have. In general, you saw all the presentation, which talks about lean structure, how lean can help companies achieve their strategic objective, and how you basically use it in whether it's a lean finance, whether it's lean construction, to achieve the result. The byproduct of the discussion today essentially is just going back to the basic principle. One of the architects of the model for current strategy has been Professor Porter's. His presentation in strategy has been seminal in terms of the decision process that everybody uses. And okay, great. Go to slide 3, Michael Porter, please.
Professor Farhoud, can you advise us when you want to shift to the next slide, please?
Yes, just shift to the next slide. And next one. Okay. That's really the objective, that we are trying to connect the dot today. If you go to the next slide, please. Professor Porter presentation was seminal in terms of the strategy. So what is the strategy? His basic argument is that the 3 prongs to the strategy in order to achieve your competitive advantage. The first is cost, how you reduce cost. As you saw basically in the presentation before me by Samar, in terms of the construction, the whole idea is how you eliminate waste, and in the process of the elimination of the waste, you reduce cost. In Bruno's presentation, in terms of the hospital, his idea was to cut back the time. So that is one element of the possibility. The second potential strategy that companies can use is creating a unique perspective. By unique perspective, essentially you create a niche for yourself. You create a process that you become very effective in presenting. And through that effectiveness, you can differentiate yourself. And as you differentiate yourself, you can generate activities. The third pillar of Professor Porter's argument has been that you need to focus on how you can transform your learning into value for the customers. And if you can deliver the value for the customers, you basically can generate activity for the company, as well as generating business for itself. So when you look at these 3 pillars of a strategy, the idea was to gain competitive advantage for the companies. But strategy is not the factor. Strategy needs to be incorporated with entrepreneurship. Next slide, please. Okay. So if you look at the essence of this strategy, making choices that they're controversial, because often your strategy implies figuring out the trade-off, how you trade one option for another option. And generally these trade-offs decisions are made by the management, by the leadership, by the project leaders, whoever is in charge of delivering on the alternative or implementing the strategy. It basically requires for you to accept enduring opposing views, because not everybody would be aligned with that strategy. If you accept the opposing views, then you can endure that view into the process and making it work. And you want to be different. If your strategy is very similar to everybody else, you would not be able to distinguish yourself or differentiate yourself. And your choice needs to be distinct. You have to be clear on what is it that you're trying to offer and what is the trade-off of that choice. And if you do not have clarity, it would be very hard for any group to implement that strategy. So you need clarity. And again, that clarity comes from whoever is making the decision on the projects. Next slide, please. Now, what is entrepreneurship? Entrepreneurship has been subject of the debate since 18 centuries. There has been research on what entrepreneurship is all about. Unfortunately, even in the 21st century, we still have debate on what entrepreneurship entails. It is a complex, multifunctional structure and phenomenon. It is not really has one single definition that you can imply. A lot of people feel that the entrepreneurship is innate. People are born with it. There are others who think, no, it is not innate, it's a learning process. And in fact, from where I come from Babson College, we believe that entrepreneurship can be taught. And everyone can be entrepreneurs within the context of a new business or within the context of existing business in large organization or small organization. And there is debate about the value that entrepreneurs basically deliver in terms of the social and economic prospect. If you look at the old books in economics theory, you basically don't see any reference to entrepreneur. You generally get reference to management, know-how as the fourth pillar of the factors of production. But nowadays we use entrepreneur, and a lot of organization, a lot of governmental official think of entrepreneurship as a vehicle of addressing some of the social challenges. But that's not clear cut. And next slide, please. Okay. Innovation by itself is a process. A lot of companies have they think they have innovative process. But the old cliche goes that innovation is mother of invention. Need is mother of invention, pardon me. But innovation is a process of doing things differently. You don't want to reinvent the wheel. And as such, you need to be cognitive what that innovation tries to achieve. In essence, in many companies, innovation is a pillar which allow the companies to sustain their competitive advantage, to be one step ahead of their competition. When you look at companies like Tesla today, relatively newcomer to the automotive industry, that some of the old established company with a century plus experience, and Tesla in a span of just number of years that you can count on your finger, now is the largest auto manufacturing in terms of the value. How does that come about? Was it innovative process? Was it entrepreneurial process? Was it thinking outside the box? So basically, the idea of the innovation is converting a problem to an idea. If you don't have a problem, you cannot find a solution. If you don't understand the problem, you don't find a solution. You saw in the presentation about Waze that the chairman or the founder of Waze argued that he likes the problem, because once you understand the problem, you can find a solution. And that's really the idea, transformation of the problem into an idea and from idea to a solution. Innovation is about finding a process of doing things differently, not necessarily reinventing the wheel. It is definitely different than creation, and it requires harnessing your inner creativity, your creative ability to come up with a new solution. And you need to think about it as a way to break away from historic inertia, because historical inertia, unfortunately, creates a boundary for us, and that boundary limits our ability to basically move. Next slide, please. Okay. What is leadership? If you go through the textbook, if you go through the definition of the leadership, you will see a lot of different definitions. There has been a lot of cases written about leadership. There are a lot of schools who teaches leadership, and they have programs. It argues about how the leader are transformative, how their knowledge, how they have the unique ability to bring everybody about, how to basically can find a path to achieve structure and credibility within that organization. They have the ability to overcome problems. They can achieve preset goals that is set. They possess qualities that they can think of a plan, manage that plan, manage the organization, implement plan, and communicate that. Well, in itself, that is true, but that requires a certain finesse in order to be a good leader and a bad leader. Think about your company. Is your company leadership managing your company properly? Are you as a participant in that company happy with what the company is trying to do? Let me broaden the question and look at COVID-19. Since March, that for all practical purpose, COVID-19 has hit almost every country in the world. You have seen different response to this external problem that it was forced open all the countries by leaders in different countries, by leaders within any communities, by leaders within any towns that you are. Look around you and see how the environment that you are right now in, how the leadership in that environment is impacting you, everybody else around, and how they are communicating their decision. Within your company, are they communicating right decision to you? So the essence of leadership in many ways is much broader than a title that somebody may have as a leader. You want to make sure that you incorporate all of those in terms of what the leadership is all about. Next slide, please. Thank you. Now, what is the SEAL framework? SEAL stands for Strategy, Entrepreneurship, Innovation, and Leadership. It really talks about entrepreneurial leaders who are strategic in their approach, and they are not afraid of making decision that it may not at first seem right with everybody, but have the ability to bring them along. So they have a unique ability to identify the problem and find a strategy to deliver that the value that people are looking for, empower everybody within the organization or within the team to move in the same direction, pull in the same direction, take initiative, and move forward. Now, if you remember Fabio's argument, he said, don't wait for your CEO. Essentially, take initiative. But initiative taken by a lower management structure sometimes will hit a roadblock if there is no buying from everybody in the organization, from the different groups within an organization, as well as the top management. Because each group, each opposing group generally does things that it is in their self-interest. That is we as a human being have a tendency to always do the things that is best for our self-interest. Now, let me give you a sort of a broader framework for you to think of. In any organization, generally you have three principles that it operates within an organization, and they are all linked. You always have your sales force, where the idea of the sales force is to sell as many products as possible, to increase the customer base as much as they can. You have your marketing division, which the idea is to sell the idea of your products, convince the consumer that your product is unique or it has a features that nobody else has. And the third pillar in that group is your finance team, your accounting and finance team, which their general principal motive is to ensure that you control cost, you increase profitability, and generally increase your shareholder equity. If you look at these three pillars in your organization, these are three competing objectives. Each of them levers differently in terms of what they want to achieve. If you're within the finance team, your objective is generally to minimize cost and maximize profit, a traditional definition of organization. If your objective is to maximize profit, reduce cost, you want to make sure there is no redundancy, you want to make sure there is no waste, you want to make sure that everybody pulls their weight and they do work more than what they need to in order to achieve your objective, to increase their productivity. In that sense, your objective is really the bottom line, looking at the difference between the cost and the revenue and see where that gap is get larger. However, if you're in the marketing sphere, your objective is to reach as many people, convince as many people that your product is there. You're not so much concerned about the cost, but you view marketing as an investment in the future company, as an investment in attaining customer, the same way you use investment for machinery and tools and equipment to be more productive. So basically, you are there. And if you are in the sales force, you want to sell as many as possible. So your objective is to have the lowest possible price so you can convince the customer to buy your products. So when you look at it, these are competing needs. What you need is a leader who can look at all of these and ask the right question from each group within the organization. And once you ask the right question, you can come up with the right solution. Next slide, please. Okay. So when we talk about strategy, entrepreneurship, innovation, and leadership, of course, each of them have their standalone definition. Each of them have body of work that many people have devoted their life to the pursuit of answering the question. But what you see in the presentation, often we use combination of these entrepreneurial leaders. For instance, when you look at the work that Dr. Fred has done in terms of reaching to different groups, reducing the patients' times to get access to the solution for their problem, that is really entrepreneurial thinking, was thinking outside the box. In other words, how can I restructure the process in order to streamline and reduce the time and deliver value to my customer? The complexity of the decision process in 21st century, especially with the changing technology, changing everything, it makes it harder to look at each of these as silos. Rather, we should look at it holistically as a part of the whole package in terms of what we need to deliver. How is my strategies being implemented? Does everybody has buying? How do they connect? Is my team innovative? Are they thinking outside the box? Is leadership connecting to the people? Is it bringing everybody along? Now, again, think of your own company and realistically assess these factors. You may have a strategy which is being manifest itself in the company's objective. It is passed on as a memo or email to everybody in the organization that our next strategic objective is to do X in the next 6 months. And we expect everybody to follow suit. Is that communication methodology that is being used in the company to come to you as a part of that company? Is it really making you believe in the strategy? Does it make you want to contribute as much as possible? Or you take it for granted as a part of your job? The boss told me to do so, and I'm just going to follow. So when you think about that holistic, the approach changes. Next slide, please. Okay. So strategic entrepreneurs look at these in combination. Try to bring everybody along. Try to make sure that they accept opposing views. Often in organization, you will find out that people have a hard time to relay their concern or the problem they see to the upper part of the organization because they are not sure of the ramification of identifying that problem. You don't want to assign a blame, but at the same time, when you bring a problem to the surface, somebody may get blamed. If that somebody is your superiors, supervisors, they may retaliate, and people are afraid of that retaliation. You need a leader that it creates an environment that people can talk freely. They can open up in terms of the structure. Because when you look at the structure of entrepreneurship, leadership, in essence, either is dictatorial, is top down. Everything comes from the top and is translated through various channels to everybody down the lowest end of the corporation. It is democratic, where it is consultative. or it could be freewheeling. Do as you please. Each of them has plus and minuses. You don't want to create a chaos within organization by allowing everybody to do whatever they want to do. But at the same time, you want to allow people to voice their concern. In fact, if you look at the lean structure, which was based on the Toyota initially, and the discussion that I believe we had in the second day about Toyota implementation plan, what was different? What did Toyota do different than it has been used as a case in every business school to teach the methodology of Toyota? What they did essentially provide ability to the people on the line to voice their opinion, ability to stop the assembly line if they see a problem. They did that by moving the engineers from the corporate office to the site, to the line of management. That allowed them to basically have a better understanding that the worker on the line may have some valid concern, some valid point that you need to address it. Rather than engineers sitting on the corporate side and decision getting filtered through many, many, many different layers. Okay, so long-term sustainability requires that organization coordinate all the activity through the leadership to achieve a strategic goal and bring about the desired social change for the company. Without that, you would have a hard time. Next slide, please. So when you look at how we define this, how I basically, when I work with different universities or when I work with different institutions, talk about SEAL as a strategy, is that identifying the trade-off. What is it that you are trying to do? And what are the choices that you are facing? And what are the trade-off in these choices? Again, most of my work has been in academia. So if an institution wants to offer a new program, my argument with them always is that what is your objective of delivering this program? If you deliver this program, what other options do you have? So when you can identify the trade-off, then you can make a better decision because you know what the contour of each choices are. Entrepreneurs generally is about understanding the risk and ability to change. Now, for many of you, if I ask you, are the entrepreneurs risk takers? In most cases, when I ask that question, the answer is yes. While in reality, the answer is no. Entrepreneurs are not risk takers, but they have the ability to assess risk and decide which risk is tolerable for them, how far they can push, where can they go. If the objective that they have started with is not attainable, should they stick to it? Should they look for that North Star? Or should they change? Should they pivot? Entrepreneurs and entrepreneurial leaders have the canning ability to do that, to change when they hit the roadblock. They are not afraid of the failure of not achieving an objective. Notice in some organization, every component of that organization often is given a goal. And you are assessed by achieving that goal at the time of evaluation. And if you have not achieved your goal, you generally get penalized. That would kill the incentive for the people to be innovative. That kills the incentive for the people not to take risk, which is well vetted out. We don't want to reinvent the wheel, but we want to find out a better way of building a better mousetrap. In fact, if you look at companies like Amazon or Walmart, if you're familiar with in the United States, what is their major achievement that it allowed them to reach where they are? Okay. When you look at Walmart, it was their ability to control cost, negotiate, identify their target market, and deliver to that target market. Amazon is doing the same thing. Okay. So in essence, the leadership in organization is all about persuasion, ability to bring everyone on board. So the entire organization pulls in the same direction. But leaders should not be afraid of hearing the opposing views. If they're afraid of hearing the opposing views, or if people are afraid to indicate their views, I guarantee you in most cases, those companies are doomed to failure. And essentially you will see example of many companies that they were sustainable for a while and now they no longer are in existence. To me, that is really the crux of the lack of true leadership in the company. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay. Now, entrepreneurs basically have the ability to use predictive logic when it yields result, when it gives you the solution, when it gives you the answer that you want. Now, what is predictive logic? That's what we have been taught in school all our life. In fact, every one of us have been taught to think this way. If you have a problem, identify the factors that influences that problem. Go collect information on that. Use that information to predict what happens if you change. A predictive logic. You start with large amount of information. You narrow down that information. You go through the process of decision, process of elimination, process of trade-offs, and eventually you come up with the solution. That's predictive logics. But predictive logic doesn't work every time, especially when information is not there. Case in point, COVID-19. We don't know how initially, when I'm talking about we don't know, I'm talking about initially. We initially didn't know how it influenced people, how it transferred, how it exposed people. What can you take to address? So as a result, our predictive logic would not work. So what it works is creative logic. Push on the, thank you. So what does creative logic do? Essentially, it starts with a small amount of information and it expands on it. In the very early stages, we find out that the COVID-19 is transferred through air, proximity, through a sneeze, through touching your mouth, through touching your hand, through touching inanimate object. As we moved along, we find more and more and more, and we are coming up with a better and better and better answer for social distancing, etc. So creative logic allows you to start small and just grow with that. Entrepreneurs have a canny ability to move between these two, to see where everything works. And if you have that ability, that agility in your company, you certainly succeed. But if you just stick to predictive logic, you are not going to always succeed, because always there are something that you don't know. Next slide, please. Okay, I'm borrowing this from Bruno's slide. Bruno, please pardon me for sort of lack of coordination in your slide. He used that slide in terms of how you bring everybody together, in terms of achieving the summit, going to that North Star, tracking the objective. Unfortunately, in some cases, you may not be able to get to the summit. If you cannot get to the summit, should you keep trying? When you hit that break wall, should you keep pounding at that wall to break it? From our perspective, the answer is no. Change your goals, change your objective, move to different summit. And as you pivot to different summit, you will see that your resources comes along and you basically achieve the objective that you initially set for your company and your corporation. So next slide, please. So from our perspective, entrepreneurial leaders who are innovative, they are not rigid about the path that they are taking. They identify that path as a direction to move. And when they hit a dead end, they can easily move around and pivot, go around the limitation that they have. Generally, they do that by knowing themselves and by knowing a network that it can help them to pull out of that rigidity. If we are rigid in pursuing an objective, we are doomed to fail. Successful entrepreneurial leaders have cognitive ambidexterity. They are very well self-aware. They can change quickly. They use predictive logic when necessary, creative logic when necessary, and they can switch between those two rather easily. And they have self and contextual awareness. They know their own ability, and they know they can enroll others through their network. And that's what they are basically the story behind their success. And you will see that most entrepreneurial leaders who start a company and make it big and essentially make it work become a serial entrepreneurs. They move to different things and they repeat that success over and over. Next slide, please. So with that, I want to thank the Lean Golf Dubai Quality Group for allowing me to be part of this process. And you can email me the question if you have any concern or any discussion that you want to follow. But to me, that is really the pretext for our 21st century, that we need to be able to move beyond our traditional boundaries. Our educational system, our productive system, our political system, they all need to move outside the box that they have trapped themselves in. And that only can be done through training and through work and through hard work. With that, I thank you.
We thank you, Professor Kafi. That was very informative, and I think it aligned well with what we had spoken about during our 3 days of summit. Because as you recall, we've heard from those at the most senior levels in organizations, both large and small, as well as those who are actually responsible for doing lean implementations. And a lot of the things to summarize very quickly is that you hear the emphasis is on the people and their ability to identify waste, as well as their willingness to accept a new way of doing things. Now, are you going to meet resistance if you attempt to do a lean transformation? That's almost a given. In fact, it's kind of like asking someone, is there a problem? And they answer, no problem. No problem is a big problem that if you don't address it today, you will address it at some other point. So we would like to thank our participants for their patience and their attention in this great first experiment of taking the Lean Summit virtual. We welcome your feedback. We welcome your comments. I would also like to thank all of the team from DQG who's been working diligently and in partnership with the Lean Gulf Institute, as well as Waleed Mazen from VVIR, and Salil and Doa, who have dedicated hours to try to make sure that everything fell into place for us.
Thank you, Deborah.
And with that said, we don't have any questions in the Q&A, but we do have a comment that someone said, thank you so much, team, and Eid Mubarak.
Eid Mubarak.
Eid Mubarak.
And I would love to add to you, Deborah, on behalf of the Dubai Quality Group family, allow us to express our sincere gratitude to all the speakers for their invaluable support and cooperation, which led to the remarkable success of the virtual Lean Summit 2020 in UAE. Thank you so much.
That sentiment is also shared by the Lean Gulf Institute with all of our speakers. We can't do it without you. And I had done a webinar a while back that was about turning challenges into opportunities. And in my title, I put, with a little help from your friends. And so all of this was made possible with that great help from all of our friends, all of you. And you will have access to day 2 and day 3. You'll be getting a link after the holiday. So thank you and have a good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you may be.